Brothers and sisters, this is, to me, one of the great gospel stories that we hear in all of the gospels. Think about what a guy could really preach on. First of all, we have to ask ourselves, Jesus knows that Lazarus is ill. He knows he's going to die. And yet, what does he say? Those strange words. He stays where he is for 2 more days. Strange, isn't it? Girl, if you found out a friend was ill, what would you do? Stay for 2 days or go? And we hear that Jesus stays for 2 more days. Then we hear that strange scenario about Judea that Jesus tells his disciples in the meantime, while he has to wait for Lazarus to die, he says, let's go back to Judea, and the disciples can't believe it. Why would you do something so strange? I want to kill you there. And Jesus says, but we have to go back. And then all of a sudden now he sets out and he heads to where Lazarus lives, and all of a sudden he comes across a scathing Martha. And what does Martha say? Lord, you had been here, Lazarus would have never died. And Jesus says, do you believe? Yeah, I believe. You are the resurrection and the life. Then we have Mary come out. Same posture as we hear in the other story. Martha stands and works. Mary falls at his feet and says what? Same thing. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And we hear that Jesus is perturbed. We don't hear that very often. Here he is. We also hear these words, and Jesus wept. How many of us envision Jesus weeping? Okay? Then we finally get to go to the tomb, and all of a sudden the stone is rolled back, and Jesus says, come out. Now, if you were there, what would you have done? Would you have done this? Because it stinks? Well, imagine Lazarus comes out and he doesn't stink. But he's basically a walking mummy. Okay? What a sight. What a sight. And the one that always fascinates me is this. This is the third person Jesus has raised from the dead. Third one. And yet, again, great questions we could have asked Lazarus. You've been dead. You have an experience that we don't. Tell us what you saw. Tell us what you didn't see, what you heard, what you didn't hear. And yet we go, we read the Gospels, and what does Lazarus say? Like the other two, not a single word. Shucks. But we remember now why the Bible was written. It isn't the biblical story of Lazarus. It is about salvation in Christ. What good would it be for us to have all the answers if Jesus doesn't show us how to get there? And remember this, Lazarus dies again. Okay? He's going to die again. But what we're about, everyone, is resurrection faith. Jesus has power, everyone, over people who have physically died and over those who have spiritually died. Okay? He is the resurrection and the life. So remember, somebody comes up to you and asks you, what is the purpose of the Bible? It is a story of salvation. Okay? It's not a biography. It's not an autobiography. It's a story of how you and I can be saved. Okay? So don't forget that. Jesus has power over all things. Okay? Let's remember that tonight.